like passing chords inside this harmony. A passing chord is just something that is like, you know, passing on to the next chord, but he's not like using like standard passing chords, but more like he's playing something and then he's coming back to the original chord where he was. So he's not passing on, but he's like somehow trying to trick you a little bit, okay? So let's have I will just jam again and show you what I mean. Alright, so A. You know, you think like after the dun, dun, it should go somewhere else, but it's cool if you stay there. And now you go further. And like in the end, you know, here in the last section, you can always, you know, you don't have to stay here on this fixed chord here. You can go with the chord. So actually this chord progression is super standard, you know. This is just in A minor, F major, and then D minor. The only thing that's making this cool is that it's not changing all the time, but as I said, you can go with those chords a little bit from time to time. So we're now in our A minor, so I would recommend you to, if you're playing this or if you're jamming around with this, you should always be aware where you're at here with your lowest note, right? So A minor, now we're switching to our F. So we can stay up here, for example, on the A, which is the third. Now we're going to our D minor. Now we could say, okay, we don't want that 11th here, it's too far out. And we can, you know, transpose this up to our 5th here. This just depends on how much harmony you want in the end. I think like in the whole track, I don't know, like of course I don't know exactly how he produced it, but I think he's doing some like motions like this. You can go from this like, you know, third here with your, this is the third of your D, we're in D minor now, 7th, 3rd, 5th, you can switch between the 3rd and the sus2 here, for example. Sorry, so we are in our D, switching here, and then we're going back to our A. And you can do that motion all the time. And then you can, and you just, you know, you implement rhythm inside of this. So this is a little bit of a harder one because I think you need your fingers, you need to know the shapes on the piano. But otherwise, I think you know, this is so much fun if you know like the basic techniques of it, and then you can like just go and jam around with this a little bit. So this is how I think he approached this whole song, and then he's building it up very, very slowly. And I think at a certain time he's just, you know, he recorded his basic progression. A minor, F major 9, and a D minor 9, 11. And he looped that, and then it's coming out of a filter throughout the whole track, and then he's adding like higher jam notes to the track, okay? So another thing that I would recommend if you are producing like this kind of music is, you know, if you compare those pianos here, for example, I have this like Ableton piano, sounds like this, which is okay. You can also play it, the chord progression like that. Okay, but if you have a nicer piano, and I'm using like this Noir contract library here. I don't endorsement with them or anything. I'm just using this. I think it's really good. You know, it already sounds softer. You can make it softer here. And you can also automate this here throughout the track. So it's kind of like acting as a filter, but in real life. And it's also very important with this kind of style that you're not, you know, we're now going to record something and we're not going to change on every one. Okay, so what we try to avoid is, you know, to always start on the note that the listeners expect. A little hint here, through all this recording here, I have a little bit of latency, so if there is something that is not on time, I'm not the best player, and yeah, we're just going to quantize it afterwards. So let's go and just jam around with this principle a little more and get in our practical session here. I will hit the record button here, zack, open up the piano, and now we're just using like this. We have a triad in the right hand or a 7th chord. We can also use different 7th chords. You know, we can use our G dominant 7 here as well. And then I have to disable the background harmony here. So we are just using our 7th chords in our scale with the root, and then we're going down thirds in our left hand. So this one is not working out pretty well. So we should change maybe either to our A minor, or we could also try our D minor, for example. And you know, you can sense that those are not working out pretty well, because why? Because we have our D minor 7th, it's working out very well, and now we're going to our B diminished, and now we have notes that are clashing really hard, so this is why it's not working out here so well. And then we're going to our G, which is working out pretty okay here, right? But this is something you have to watch out for if you are composing like this. So, you know, your notes, they should be, this is why this A is working out so well here. Because it's creating a great harmony here. There's no tritone in here, you know? Just going to a more like standard D minor here in the end, maybe. This would be too standard F major here. Okay, something like this maybe. So just stop this, and I think the 1 is a little bit all over the place because I thought it's here, but let's just open this up. And are we still in our triple click? No, perfect. Let's open this up and let's right click and go to quantize section here. And now we can just quantize our notes, not with an amount of 100%, which would sound very static, but with 31%, and this will make it still sound a little bit more human. I think a little bit more would be nice. this, and you can see it. This is not playing because it's starting too late here. We have to drag this here. Okay. Okay, I think this one can also go on the 1 here. And I think like those notes here, if you're playing like this passing chords, if you're like making this like passing chord rhythm there, they should all come on like the right time, you know, so starting here, it shouldn't start there on the lowest note. This is also not good. Half step here will sound very dissonant. Oops. Okay, I like that. Dum, bum. Let's just open this up and make it longer. Let's just make this legato. I don't have a pedal here, which is a little bit bad actually. And I think this does not needs to be hit again here. And we can do like another fill note here, like this. So we're going on our 3rd of our D minor and releasing a little bit there. Okay, now they are not playing here. That's why. Okay. Let's consolidate that with Command and J. A little bit more quantization. Okay, maybe we can get rid of this note here. Okay, so, and then I think like this could be like one example, okay? I don't want to get too stuck here. And then he's just adding like filter. Opening up very slowly. And then he's coming in with different, you know, extensions to that. Just always bear in mind the harmony that you add. A minor. So on and so on and so on. So I imagine him sitting there like on the piano like dum, 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 dum. You know, and this is like, this is pretty cool, you know, this is making up this cool and me and kind of music style in general, because they're not releasing their chords all the time, you know, and that's just something that you also have to be able to deal with that when you're producing by yourself, because for me this was not that easy for a long time to, you know, just stay in that tension mode and not to resolve everything and make it super cheesy. Alright, so to conclude this one, it's basically this consonant and dissonance approach that I've showed earlier in the course, and then he's just, using a minor seventh in the right hand, coming from the root note of the Aeolian minor mode, so the A minor seventh here, and then just changing the root all the time, and then jamming around with this voicing up here, but always staying in a zone where he's not releasing it at the time you expect it to be like released, like harmonically. So that's it about And Me, Muye, and now we'll continue. So let's continue with our third example, which is the Moments, the remix from Nils Hoffmann and Ben Böhmer. And this is what I came up with here. Okay, so this was the repetition 2 times, and I call this one the free chord method because we have like four bars here, and we're only using free chords, which is an interesting thing, I think. I just want to clarify that you don't necessarily have to deal with 4 chords if you have a 4-bar loop, or with 2 chords double the time to fill up those 4 bars, but you can also work with free chords. Yeah, and like the only real trick here, if you want to use free chords, is just to double the length of 1 chord, and then you have filled up your chord length on your 4 bars, and you can loop it seamlessly over and over again. So have a listen to that one. It's starting again, right? And also here I just wanted to show you real quick the cheesy version. Cool, so here's the cheesy version of this track. So let's talk about the chord progression here. So we're in G natural minor here, starting on our root chord, G minor. This one, and then we're going down a major third to our E flat major, seconded. Then we're going down a major third to our E flat major chord in first inversion. If you put this note down here, you would have the root position. If you transpose it up an octave, you have first inversion. If you transpose the third up an octave, you have the second inversion. If you transpose the fifth up an octave, you will have your root position but 1 octave higher, right? And then we're moving to our F major chord, which is the 7th chord degree in our G minor Aeolian scale. So I think what's characteristic about this track, it's starting off in minor and then it's moving into 2 major chords, which is making the whole track like not super minorish, even though we're starting with a minor chord here, okay? Here you can, like how did he came up with the G minor to the A, E flat major and then the F major chord. So if we have a look at the scale that you're in, which is G minor, natural minor, just press all those notes, or I can do this here as well. So this is our G natural minor scale. So you can build chords on all of that root notes here that are highlighted here in orange. So he started off with his G minor, just this one. Then he used like this, you could use, I don't think that he used that method, but you could go down a major third with that consonant interval rule. Build a chord up on there. And now it's pretty interesting because now he's moving all of his voices up a whole step to this F major chord here, and this is just creating a lot of change at that moment, okay? So there is no right or wrong, like what chord progressions you will write, because they are good, like all of them are good. Some of them are more smooth, because if you go from a G minor to this E flat major chord, you're just changing one note here. So if you have a listen with a bass note, the bass note is of course making a third here, right? And so if you want more So if you want to change more now, I mean, you could also go to the C minor here, for example, you know, because it's inside the scale of G minor. But it would be really, really close to this E flat major chord and would be a minorish ingredient. So he chose to not go to the C minor, but to go to the F major chord here, which is changing all of the notes here from our E flat major chord to our F minor. So this is just like, okay, this is changing the mood now drastically. From a major to a major chord still, but all of the voices are wandering, like this one is going here, this one is going here, and this one is going here. You know, you have a lot of change in there. So this is how I would approach writing chords if I would be you. So if you're writing a progression, G minor, going down to the E flat, as I said, going down to the C, and you think, okay, it's too sad in the end and it's too obvious. Well, sadness, kind of sadness, if you have the minor third inside the chord, means, okay, I need to change the quality of my chord. Quality means like if it's major or minor. So I need a major chord. Which major chord is there in my scale here of G natural minor? So we could go G minor, then we could go to our E flat major, and now we have two choices. We could either go to our B major chord or to our F major chord. Or we could even go and use both, but he's just using free chords here. That's why we're going with this free chord rule here, right? So G minor, E flat major, F major. Works out pretty well. So there's no right or wrong about that. It's just, what do you want to achieve in the end? That's the question that you should ask yourself, and this is nothing that I can help you with, unfortunately. I would also like to know what chord progression is the right one for every case, you know, but this is just something that's about your idea in the end. Okay, so we've already transferred that knowledge that he was using in his chord progression a little bit, and jammed around and tried to get other ingredients into our musical soup here, right? We didn't have a look at like how he made the sound design here, and we'll just have a listen to my recreation one more time. Bassline is again very steady, very deep, just something that progresses all the time, giving it a strong foundation. Let's just deactivate the drums real quick. Those are also all PML loops here from my Organica sample packs as well. Cool, so now we have our bass here. Sidechain pretty heavily. This is also a style sign of this progressive style. It's very heavily sidechained. Then with our chords, and those chords they are like spiced up with some rhythmical information here. And you could either achieve this effect by dialing in an arpeggiator. So if you go here to your MIDI effect, go in with arpeggiator, then put it to 8th note, dun, 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 and then you have to go to style and you have to choose chord trigger here, because otherwise it will take all the notes that are inside your chord and will arpeggiate those. But like this, it will arpeggiate your whole chord. But this is not what I did. So let's have a quick look into our diva here. What I did was I closed down the filter. As you can see, there's no envelope 2 here going on. There is this LFO2 which you can dial in when you click here, and it's just slightly dialed in. And this one is opening up the filter in a certain way. LFO is a low frequency oscillator. It's just a wave that is controlling the filter opening, right? And this can be found right here. And it's important that you sync it if you want to sync it, and that you choose saw wave down. So saw wave down is just this shape, right? Directly up, and then it's just moving down. And I've created like this 8th note here, and this is why it sounds like as if this note would be like repeated from an arpeggiator, but it's actually a pad that is getting opened by the LFO. Right, if you increase this, it gets clearer. Okay, but just for a little bit motion right there is oftentimes enough. And then we have this plug here. And I think this one is actually quite interesting because it's never changing. It's always the same plug. And like all in all, you have to watch out that you're not getting too cheesy in your productions in melodic house, because yeah, otherwise it will sound a little bit, uncool, if you want, like that. But the uncheesiness, you can get rid of that if you are implementing more and more elements that just stay the same and that get contextualized by the harmony that is changing all the time. And this is something that happens here. And now, of course, the question is, what notes can you use that will fit each chord? And this is something you have to think about. So within our first chord, we have here our G minor chord. Of course, we can use our G, and we can also use the F, because the F is the 7th of our G. So if you have a look here, G, 7th of the G, here is the F. Right, so this can work out. It's like a 7th chord. It's giving a little bit the vibe of a 7th chord right there. If we have a look at the context of those two notes with the E flat major chord, we can see that the G is the major third. The G is the major third of our E flat. That's why it's working here. And the F, it's the major 6th, which is also a consonant interval, This is why this is working out also quite nicely here with the E flat major. Like in general, if you have tonal information that is going on for a very long time, and it's very loud and it's very present and it's very deep, it needs to be more consonant than if you are playing a very fast melody. There can be very small, like very dissonant sounds if they're not appearing all the time for a very long time. So this is just a general rule of thumb that you can use when you're composing. Alright, so this is why this one is working here as well. And then we have this chord again, and then we have our F major chord here in the end, which is just the root here, and this is the 9th of our F, and this is why it's working all the time. So there's no time where one of those two notes are like a minor second or like a tritone apart from one of the chord notes there. So this is like how I would approach this. So without further talking, let's go into our practical writing sessions here. Alright, so I'm just going to mute the chords here, plug and the bass, and we're just going to use those channels. Let's just duplicate those. Let's just group this and call this old. Now we are going to use the knowledge we just gathered to make up our own progressions out of this in this kind of style. Okay, so now we can enable the drums again. Alright, cool. So as I said, I would start with the bass note, because this is defining your chord quality in the end, and it's giving you a solid foundation. So we already have our patch here, so let's just create a MIDI clip, and now we will only use 3 chords, right? We'll make one double the time of the other, so we fit the 4-bar loop, and we try to go a little bit minor and then more major, or first major then minor then major, so a little bit more majorish parts in our chord progression, and then we will try to make one bigger leap between 2 chords, so nothing that is too smooth. So then we have all those style tricks from Nils Hoffmann and Ben implemented here. All right, so I would just start with the G as well, so we can just go in our bass region here, and now I would use something that is kind of related to our G here, which could be, for example, the C minor chord. And why is it related? Because it has a common note. The G is also the 5th of the C. So if you want to make a very, very smooth transition, you would go from the G minor to the E flat major, what he was doing, 2 common notes. And if we want to make a smooth transition, but not that smooth, we will change 2 notes, which is then going to the C. All right, so now we are in C minor. So now we have 2 minor chords. We could also go to our B or A sharp, doesn't matter, BB or A sharp. A major here at that point would also work out, would also be 2 common notes, so smoother than the C minor, and it would be this more a major character that we wanted to achieve. So I think maybe A sharp would be the better solution at this point. I'll just go here and enable the scale here real quick. So let's go to G, G minor. All right, so now we know like visually where we can set notes at. All right, and then we want to create a pretty big difference with another major chord, and we could use, so yeah, F sharp, like F is one of the best solutions here, but we'll try to make something different. Maybe we will go with the E flat here at this point, right? And this is also closely related to our G. Could be a little bit boring here in the end, but we will just try this out. Okay, so let's try and stack our chords on top of that. So first our minor chord, minor third, fifth. We can also use our open voicing here. Let's just transpose this one up. Then we have our B major chord here, F, transpose the third up to make it an open voicing. Okay, and we could also like go with an open voicing with this last E flat major chord, or we leave it here and then it will be a little bit smoother if it from voice leading from this last chord into our first chord again. So this is just this is a matter of taste in the end. Changing too much, so I would just keep this down there. And I mean, we can always, you know, like suspend one of those chords. For example, if we don't want this very majorish character here, we can also go to our B sus2 chord. And we get this instant Benbuma feel. Like now the change between this chord and this chord is not that huge, which is okay, it's smooth, but could be also bigger if you like that. You know, this is all style questions in the end. But I think we will just continue by creating our plug here. So let's create a MIDI clip, hitting Shift Command and M, open it up directly. That's perfect. Okay, so now we know, like this one up there, they're not correct anymore. We have our G minor, then here now we've dialed in our B sus2, and here we have our E flat major chord. Okay, so now we can orientate here a little bit, and let's just create a very steady supporting plug there that's just complementing our harmony. All right, G minor. I would just start with any of the notes of G minor here. So let's go with D and G. D is the fifth, G is the root note of our G minor chord, right? So we can do whatever rhythm we want. We can make it syncopated. We can make it very like offbeatish, like Schlager, as I said. Only on the offbeat now. You know, you should watch out that you're not going too crazy with those like second and fourth, 16th position here, because this will sound super unstable if you do it like this. No, it's just all over the place. Okay, so a good like, you know, mid between those two is great. So, for example, this, and then, you know, you have like your fourth, 16th rhythm position, and then you have like your offbeat, which is more stable than this one. Okay, so let's try and see if this is working over all of our chords. So with our second is the B sus2, we have our D, which is one whole step apart from our C here, which is here in our B sus2, so this could be a little bit problematic maybe. And because it's playing all the time here, I would maybe, you know, adjust this to that note as well, which is the sus2 of our B sus2 chord at that moment. But there's nothing too heavy here, so not bad. Going on. Okay, so let's check the last chord, which is the E flat major chord. G is the major third, and D is the 7th, which, I mean, this note is pretty low actually, so this could be a little bit problematic. Maybe I would go with the chord here and go on the root position here at that point. I think this could be working out a little bit better here. So with this B sus2 here, I think this is not the ideal solution, but we can also go away from that idea that it has to be all the time the same notes and just use those notes and go down to our F, which is our 5th from our B that we're currently in at this position here, right? Let's just deactivate this echo here real quick. Okay, so this is totally up to you if you want to make it like go with the chords or against the chords or never change at all. Alright, so let's conclude this. So you don't have to necessarily use 2 or 4 chords for your song. You can also use 3 chords and just double the length of 1 chord inside your whole harmonic progression. Another great tool is to use this technique to go down and up consonant intervals, and you can pick very easy track chords that will work more or less smoothly within your chord progression. And don't think that I would try to think about my progressions the way that you think of, do I want a lot of change or not? Do I want minor or do I want major and not? Okay, is a 1-4 right or is a 5-1 the right solution? This is not making sense to me because I don't know why I would do this. So the why is how much change do you want to create? What quality do you want to have? Do you want to make it a sus chord, for example? And this is also this is a big part of the style of Ben Böhmer, He's always using those sus2 chords, open voicing stuff, and this made up his sound. It's the exact same thing if you listen to tracks from, for example, Oliver Schurz. This is a small chorus at that moment. So if you have just this bass line, and he just added the 5th to his bass lines, by just dialing in a second oscillator, 7 semitones above the first one. So 12 plus 7 is 19. I have to tune it here. Yep. Alright, so, and you have an instant Oliver Schurz feeling, and that's because he always used that 7th in his bass lines. Okay, so I think that's it about this 3rd harmonic progression here. So let's continue. Alright, so welcome to the 4th example, which is More from Jan Blomqvist, currently his top track. Pretty nice. Actually, I think it's a little bit cheesy, but very poppy, very nice. And let's just have a listen directly so you can hear how it sounds like, my recreation of it. Alright, so that's it. You can hear that very loud crackle. We can deactivate this for now, but in original there's like this very nice atmosphere on top of it, which creates just a very nice vibe. But I think we'll just delete this for now because it will interrupt with my talking all the time. So this one is called the Dorian uncheesiness method, and it's again in Dorian, and I picked this one because it's kind of a similar example to the one we already had, where the last chord was like the one that was the Dorian chord. So we are here in our F minor scale. So I will show you this F minor scale. So this is the normal F minor scale with our flat 6th here, going back to our root, going back to my root. And yeah, what is making it Dorian is that we change this flat 6th here to our major 6th here. And this, as I said earlier, is giving us different chord possibilities in the end. So we're no longer having this B flat minor chord. We have a B flat major chord here in the end. And as you can see, his last chord is that B flat major chord. And that's very interesting because, I think he's, kind of waiting, and then he's introducing that very, distinctive chord at the very end here. So his progression is F minor, then he's going to an A flat major, very similar sounding in the end, just one note changing here. Second inversion of the A flat major here with the right voice leading. So if we have root with the root, Then he's moving to the C minor chord. Also very smooth here, 2 common notes between the A flat major and the C minor. So this is a very, very, very smooth voice lead like progression. And then, this is also interesting, he's changing all of the notes in the end. And I think this is like a common thing here that you can do, is to change a lot in the end, you know, or at a certain point you need to make some kind of a difference, you know, because otherwise you will be always smooth, and if you're always smooth, it's again not smooth because you don't have any like reference point for smoothness, if that makes sense. So then he's going from the C to his B major, not B minor, because we're in our Dorian mode here. And this one is really, this one is opening up. So I will just play this one again, and then you can, you know, have a listen for that 6th in there that's creating the major third of our B flat major chord. So F minor, A flat major, C minor, very interesting note here. Cool. So in general, this is like, it is a very cheesy chord progression, but I think he's doing a pretty good job, because also in the original there is this piano inside, and if you have a piano inside that's playing on the 1, you will be cheesy. There's no doubt about that if you're not like varying it rhythmically, okay? But he's doing it quite well, I think. I couldn't like recreate like the whole, like there's also like atmospheric vocal chops in there and stuff like that he looped it, and I couldn't like, you know, recreate it because I don't have those original sounds. But I think what those artists are doing is that they just, you know, they go in their sample libraries or on Splice or on anything, and they are using libraries, I can tell you, and they're just like, you know, typing in a chord quality F minor. So this is like how the F minor will be named FM in your sample library, and then they, you know, they pre-listen to their chord progression, and then they take something and then they loop it in, and then they create a texture out of that. So this is just a small excursus and something that I wanted to show you, which is a nice workflow boost in my opinion. So we have this mixed ARP style sounds here from the orchestral tool packs, and we're just going to have a listen to our original playback and with this melodic phrases combined, and then we'll just sort something out and try if we find something that complements the whole harmony. So crazy, we need minor. This could work out, so we'll just take this. I'll just take this, and you can put like an EQ or something on top of it. It's like by itself, it's a little bit detuned, but that's no problem. No, and now you can also add like echo, then you can resample it, and I can just stretch it, whatever, you know? But this can add just some interest, and this is like, if you wanna uncheese something, you just put in a lot of like different loops and you chop them and you put delay on them, and then you create like this really nice vibe that's just in this atmosphere that is just floating around. This is pretty cool actually, you know? So because it's staying the same, like only the harmony changes, and it gets a little bit blurred, you know? It's just the whole image that you like that you're imagining gets kind of like, you know, those small like sparkles on this old school cams, you know, this like these grains and all that stuff. I think of it like that. So I'm a very visual person if it comes to composing, as you may already could mention. So let's go into this production here. So we have a bass line. It's just playing the root note here. Just root notes, nothing special. And then we have our grand piano. I used the one from Ableton, even though it just sounds shitty. And here you can see it's just with, there are no sus chords in here, it's just with the classy thirds, major and minor thirds inside, but the voice leading is very, very smooth here, you know? You see that this voice is staying actually the same all the time. This one is changing after 4 bars. This one is also staying the same. So, and this makes like a connection between the chords, you know, something is changing and something is staying the same. This is pretty cool to connect your parts, you know, and not always have something new, which also would sound a little bit cheesy, you know. So it's the voice leading here is pretty smooth. And I think what Jan Blomqvist, his style, what he's doing a lot is he's like reversing pianos a lot. So I think how he's doing it, he's like just creating an audio channel and then he's resampling. You can just go to resampling here, hit record, and then he's, you know, just recording those chords. Alright, so now we've recorded those chords and now we can cut them on each bar and now we can reverse them by just hitting R, clicking the audio and hit R. Alright, so now we have our reversed chords here and this is like one of the, this is really Jan Blomqvist sound right there, and just put a delay on it with a little bit slower delay time, and now we have this nice reverse piano and then we just make it quieter. And it's just leading smoothly into the next. I doubled the grand piano here just to create a little bit more texture right there. And like basically this is you know, it's electronic music. So often it consists of the same like pattern, you know, because let me open up this keyboard here. So if you watch the first chord is F minor, you go up a third, thinking of the root notes, right? Going up the next third. So if you are moving in thirds inside of your diatonic scale, the chords will be related to each other, okay? They will work out pretty well. There will be no big surprise, right? So F minor, A flat major, one different note, and then C minor. It's also no just changing one note there, right? And then if you don't go up this consonant interval anymore, we could even go up further to our, like, with our root to our E flat here. And now it's just perfectly, like every note is perfectly fading into each other, and then we could go back to our F minor here. But at this point, at the very end, and because we're here in our Dorian mode, he's changing to this chord, which is very far apart from the other chords that he was in. And this is something we can find everywhere. So keep that in mind. Like also like the example with and me and muye. It's just thirds. We're going down thirds in our bass note, right? He isn't like including any special chord at the end, any Dorian style or something. He's just in his Aeolian minor mode, okay? But also there, this principle of going down or up in thirds or in fifths or something, consonant intervals is applying, okay? So this is a really nice hack, and like so much electronic music is just moving up and down thirds harmonically, fifth. So this is actually pretty easy, and I think this is something you can use as an ingredient to, yeah, you know, kind of spice up your productions a little bit more. Okay, I have to think about one thing for a second. All right, so to just show you one more thing that you can use in general in music production is you don't necessarily have to play the root note in the bass. You can also play the third or the fifth in the bass, right? Because they are very closely related to, like, especially the fifth, it's very closely related to the root note. So if we have our A flat major or a G sharp major chord here, the fifth would be the E flat. So if we go to this D sharp, which is equals to D flat, enharmonic enchangement, or I don't know how it's called, you know, now we can create like a bass line that is constantly descending if you would like to do so. But this is just a possibility. So let's have a listen to this. Alright, and now you can start, just select all, and we can, you know, dial in just some bridgy notes that are leading into each other inside our bass line, for example. So what notes will work out pretty well if you are in the bass line and you want to make fillers are notes that are inside of your chord that you're playing at that moment. So in an F minor that we're in here at this part, we can use our G sharp, or we could also use our A, but I would go with the G sharp because the melodic jump is not that high. Then we go to our A flat major with our fifth in our bass, but we know we're in our A flat major, so we could go stepwise here, could work out, would be nice melodically, like in our melodic line in the bass line, or we go up here, which is just our root note at that point. Now we're in C minor, we can use our third here, will work out very well. And then we're on our A sharp or B flat major here, so we can use our third here to go up again to the F. Creating a little bit smoother transitions in the end. Alright, so I think Jan is maybe using like a drum machine or something for his toms or for this plucky sound, a tonal plucky sound, but I made this up just by using an operator. Very, very simple. It's just the basic patch of the operator here. And then I recreated this small pattern here. And this is also changing with the chords, okay? And then I just layered it with a clicky sound. Without it, this would be a little bit cheesy, you know? This just giving, you know, this constant rhythm is giving something very nice and very vibey to the track, and you're more concentrated on that one, and the harmony is just more in the background and complementing it, you know. And I think this is also a reason for why you can, you know, use this kind of a cheesy piano, very basic like harmony change, and it's not too cheesy in the end. Yeah, so basic operator patch, just playing something rhythmical that's complementing the harmony is super, super important. It doesn't matter if you're using like kind of this tomish, percussive, tonal percussion sound stuff, or if you like looping something out of audio material, or if you're using Plucky Diva or Serum or Wavetable, whatever synth you're using, plugs, but complementing the harmonies and just emphasizing certain like notes inside the harmony with other elements is a super, super nice way to, you know, uncheese your production in the end. Alright, so I think that's it about like the theoretical part. So now let's use the information that we've gathered and transfer it, and let's use it in a practical producing sessions right now. Cool, so we're having 4 chords, we're in our F Dorian mode, and we have a good mixture out of like 1 minor, 2 minor, and 2 major chords. So we will try to do something in this kind of style, so let's just delete this bass line right here. we have our basic drums playing. And if I can tell you one more little trick, if you're like stuck in writer's block and blah blah, you don't know what to do, I think sometimes it's because we don't have a tonal reference. And this is something I'm referring to sometimes also in the course for the sub 37 that I made here on Production Music Live, is that if you have something that is just tonally playing in the background within your like the root note of your composition that you're going to make, it will help you to understand where the harmonics are going if you're dialing them in, because you have like, you know, something is staying the same and you get a lot better context. Like, so how can we do that? We're just going to create an audio clip, and we're just going to search for FM again, and let's see what we have in our PML packs here. Let's go into the orchestral tools bundle here. Something like this works out so nice. Or you can try with this one, and then you just go inside. Just loop it a little bit. And we can throw some delay and reverb on top of it. Creating some resonances. This one, I don't like this. I'm going to cut this one. Alright, so now we're going to decrease the volume a lot. Okay, so let's just enable the scale here. Let's go to F, Dorian. So now the half step is changing accordingly, and now we will start on our F. I'll just deactivate the effects here on our device. Where's that delay coming from? It's not even a delay, it's just a shaper box that sounds like a delay. Okay, so now we have our F. And now we can do whatever we want, okay? And if you want to go smooth, I would recommend you to, you know, you always watch your scale. F minor, Dorian scale. And first chord. So if we want to go smooth, we will choose something that has two similar chord notes. That's the chord he chose here. But maybe there's another one. Maybe we can go we could go directly to our B major chord, which would give us this interesting sound directly at the beginning here. It's not that smooth though. We could go to the C minor. That's maybe good. So we're very sad at the beginning. Okay, so let's do something like this. So we have our F here. Oops, where's my mouse? Okay. And then we go into our C. Okay, great. So now we have our second chord, which is the C minor chord, which has one common note, which is the C with the F. So we're kind of smooth there. Okay, now I was thinking about maybe going back to our F, then we would have like this 3-chord thing, but not like, then we would have 3 different chords, so F minor, C minor, F minor, and then we can go to this B flat major chord, which would, I think, be pretty interesting. Yeah, just thinking about it. I don't know if it will work out, but I'll just play the chords on top of it. Okay, so we have our F minor, C minor now. Back to the F minor. Now B flat major. Interesting. Alright, so I think what's happening here is quite interesting, because I think the ear thinks that we're going to our F, coming from our F, going to our C minor, and now we're going back to our F. So now the ear thinks, okay, this is our chord progression. F, C, and then we're changing from our F to our B flat here, and this is creating interesting. This is like, okay, it's not going back to that C here, it's going to that B. I don't know if this ambience in the background actually is working out so well with this progression, but I think in general it's a good trick. But I think for the sake of this progression we should mute it here. So we've made up our bass line. I will just adjust this namings here real quick so you don't get confused. C minor, then going back to F minor, and this is kind of a mixture out of this what we did with the Moments remix from Ben Böhmer and Nils Hoffmann, because they also used 3 chords, but one after the other, you know. And now we are splitting them up, like we have 2 times the same chord but divided by 2 other chords. Okay, so let's start by stacking some harmonies on top of this one. So I would just start with the piano here real quick. So let's just delete this. Let's use our basic chord progression information, MIDI information here. That's the most easy way I know. The activated channel, we just solo it. Now we have to transpose this one up. Okay, so F minor, in general you can take, like, now all of the notes are selected and you can take them all by hitting Option or Alt and transpose them up a 5th. This will work with every of your chords, because all of your chords in your diatonic scale, if they are not the diminished chord, they have a perfect 5th inside of them. So this is how you can easily make up like the 5th, like by just duplicating it. This makes no sense from the voice leading. Should transpose this down, and this one as well. Okay, so now we need the thirds. Okay, so third implemented here, minor third, then we're going to C minor. Go here, so this voice is leading down here, this one is down here, and this just stays the same. Then we're going back to our F minor. Then now we're going to our B flat major, which has this major third here instead of this minor third that we would have actually if we would be an Aeolian. Creating really like a happy moment, a happy but surprising moment in the end. And this is the cool thing, because now we have our B flat major or A sharp major, whatever you want to call it, in the very end of our chord progression. And this something, okay, yeah, standard, and then surprise, not standard, we're in Dorian. Okay, so this is something we've now seen here, and we've seen in an early example as well, where the last chord was the one that was really going on into that Dorian direction. Okay, so this is something you can keep in mind, that this will surprise the listener in the end. All right, so we can go solo this channel, just this one, and resample it directly. Cool, so now we've resampled it. Let's cut it on this breakpoints here, and let's reverse every single one of that. Let's have a listen. Cool. I would deactivate the echo here. So now we can just take those piano chords and put them here on this pad that I've already made up, and this is really basic. This is a really basic. Let's go with the drums. Okay, and the last thing we can adjust here is our is this plug here. So I mean, you can actually learn everything about this in the more. I would recommend to go into the ARP chapter of this whole melodic house course, because this is actually like an ARP but with a different sound, you know. But we will just use this shape here that he created and complement our harmony that we've made up. So F minor, that's fine. We can use it as it is. Okay, and here now it's getting a little bit problematic harmonically, because we're changing with everything in our harmony to our C minor chord. And here we are in, we have this A flat, which is just a half tone apart from the G, which is the fifth of the C minor we're in, and this will clash. So we have to transpose this down to the G, which is the fifth of our C minor chord, and therefore will work out perfectly. As well, the F is not working out pretty good here. I would transpose this down to the E flat, which equals the minor third of our C minor, and now it will work out. I think the top note we can leave it as it is, because it's pretty high, and it's also nice if there's like one voice that is just going through. Okay, now we can just copy the notes from our first bar here, first two bars. Yeah, working out. Let's copy this. Alright, so that's it about the practical part right here. And now it's, you know, a lot about instrumentation. What kind of pads can you add to this? You know, what kind of sounds do you like? What kind of synths do you have? Do you like it more detuned? Do you like it even more filtered? Do you like it with some more atmospheres on the top? So I'm just trying to give you this knowledge about ingredients. You know, those are all ingredients that you can just take and you build your own little, you know, cooking studio right there, and you say, okay, I have this sound, this tom, where I'm creating kind of an ARP style with it, and I have this kind of pad patch which I'm using to complement my Dorian mode, 2 chords, progression, and all of that jazz in the end. So that's it about the Jan Blomqvist More remake, and now we will continue with Massenet and some added dominant chords. Hey people, I'm back here in the harmony course, and as you can see, everything looks different. My hair looks different, I'm looking a little bit older, and yeah, something's changed, and that's because I'm recording this in different takes, so different days, maybe even a week. So this is the last part of our harmony recording, and I'm super happy to go through the last examples because they are going to be pretty interesting. The first example that we're going to have a look at is this example by Massenet, called Never Loved, and I call the method behind it the extra dominant method, because there's a dominant included in the composition that wasn't originally there. Okay, so before we go into analyzing and all that stuff, we're just going to have a listen to the recomposition and then to the cheesy version. Okay, so this was my recomposition of the original, and now let's have a listen to the cheesy version, which is actually very cheesy. Alright, maybe you could already spot the extra dominant here. It's at this very, very end. It's when this A major chord here changes to the F sharp dominant. But back to basics. Our scale here is just our B natural minor scale. So let me just open up our virtual keyboard here, and then we'll have a look at the scale that we're currently in. So let's just transpose this up an octave. B, and then we have our whole step, half step rule, you know, for building scales. For the minor scale, it's whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So this is our B natural minor scale. You know, we have this minor sixth, which is coming directly after the fifth. And if you remember, Dorian was just transposing this sixth up here. Sixth because, you know, we're looking at from the reference of our root note, of our B. Transpose this one up a half step, a major sixth here, and then it would be a Dorian mode, for example. But we're in our natural minor mode here. So the whole track starts with the tonic chord, which is our B minor. It then moves up a minor third, if you look at the root note. Here, it moves up a minor third to our D major chord. So this is a minor third, and then we have a major chord built on our diatonic minor third interval above our root note, which is the B. And this is interesting because, again, this is this example of consonant and dissonant intervals that we've made up in the previous examples a lot. So, you know, as you know, the minor third is also a consonant interval, and he just jumped up a minor third here and built a chord upon that note there. So this is also the rule that we've made up is also applied here. Alright, in general, like composition wise, I think he could have thought, I mean, you never know what a person actually thinks, but I don't want to do too much to my chord. So, I mean, we have this change that is only one note, just the B in this case going down to the A, which resolves in this second inversion of our D major chord. Okay, so there's not too much going on in our right hand actually. And in the left hand we're moving up a minor third. Alright, so we're moving towards our major quality chord, which means a little bit more happy, a little bit more uplifting character. After that, so after we've moved to our D major chord, he's moving to the G major chord, which is also a pretty close. After the D major chord, we're moving to our G major chord, which has also a closer relation to our D major. Why? Because we don't have two common notes here, but we have one common note here. Can you guess which note it is? It's this D here. So if we do a proper voice leading, we would go up a whole step here to a major third of our G major chord that we're moving towards to, and this half step here, or this F sharp here, would move up a half step here, and now we have our G major chord first inversion. And this is something that works pretty well, and it's already some kind of a dominant relationship here, because if you would have a look at the D down here, and you would go down a fifth, you will land on the G, right? And now we'll have to talk about what is actually a dominant relationship, or yeah, a dominant relationship. So if you have any tonic, you can pick whatever tonic you want. We will just, for the sake of simplicity, start with our C major. Okay, I'll just transpose this up an octave here. So if you would assume that we are in our C major scale, most easy scale, only white keys. If we go up a fifth here to our G, 5 whole tones apart from our root note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we will land on the G. So that means that the chord, which is just a perfect fifth above our root note, this will be the dominant chord of our root note. And now I will show you why that is the case. Because if you have a look at a G major chord, right, you can see that the third of the G major chord, which is the B, is also the leading tone. And what is the leading tone? A leading tone is just a half step. And why is this leading into our root note? My theory is that if you have your root note, which is the C here, you know, our ear adapts to that tonality. So we're always kind of thinking that we're in C major now. And if you play a major seventh interval now with your C, which would be this, it wants to resolve. Okay, so it wants to resolve there. It feels good if it resolves here. Let's just do this a little bit lower. Maybe it's clearer then. Right? And this note that wants to resolve, it's the major third of our G major chord, of our dominant chord. And that's the most important note in your, one of the most important notes in your G major or G dominant chord, right? You can hear this kind of progressions like this 5-1 in a lot of classical music in the end, for example. Alright, so before we're going back to our example, I just wanna emphasize something else. So this is actually, it is a G dominant chord, but it's also just a G major chord. And this is like a little bit of a definition thing, because actually it would only be a dominant chord if we have like our minor 7th here. And now it's getting a little bit more interesting, because there's a lot of tension now. This is a 7th chord. We have our 1, our 3rd, our 5th, and our 7th, our minor 7th here. And now, if we take away the root and the 5th of our G dominant 7th chord here, what's staying there is this tritone here. And this tritone, consisting of the major 3rd of our dominant chord and the minor 7th of our dominant chord, which is the G, we're looking here from this perspective now. Those two notes, they really want to resolve into these two notes. Your 5th above your root note. Root note 5th. If you build a major chord on it, it will be a dominant chord, but not the most dominant it can be. If you can make it a little bit more dominant if you add the minor 7th to it. Because this will create this very dissonant interval. And we've talked about dissonance and consonance, and dissonance wants to resolve into consonant. And those two notes, which are a tritone here, want to resolve in a very consonant interval, which is the major 3rd here. So this is like the harmonic logic behind dominant and tonic relationships. If you want to use a dominant chord, but you don't want to go, or you don't want to be too jazzy, so you don't want to use this 7th here, you can also just use your basic 3 triad chord notes, and this will already create tension, because like also through the overtone structure of this, like in those notes there are like little overtones that also imply that 7th a little bit, so it will be in that triad as well. Will resolve here. And now we were only talking about major, right? We had our C major scale here. We're going up a 5th, building our major or dominant triad, and then resolving it into our 1 again. But this 1, it does not has to be a major necessarily. We can also do this with minor keys. So if you have a minor root chord, oops, that's too low. So if we go from our C major chord to our C minor chord here, minor 3rd, major 3rd, this is how you build a C minor triad. We can also use that dominant chord. Still, we're just changing the quality of our root chord, of our tonic chord, and not the quality of our dominant chord, right? So if we have our dominant chord, which is still the G major, G dominant, this is the second inversion, we can also do it in root position. We can also resolve this chord to a minor 1. This also works. It won't sound that pleasing and that resolving as if you resolve it into a major chord, but it's still working. And if you do this with your, with your minor 7th, which makes it a real dominant chord, it's also working. So if we take away the root and the 5th again, oops, sorry, like this, we're not resolving into our major 3rd here, we're resolving into our minor 3rd. Right? It's not that beautiful, as I said. This sounds a little bit more pleasing. But in the whole context, it's also possible. And that's exactly what's happening here. So if we have a closer look at our chord progression, and we will go through the chord progression in a second, but let's just have a look at our last chord here, which is this F sharp dominant chord. This one, F sharp dominant. Major third of our dominant chord, and then it's resolving back into the one chord, which is the B minor chord. So this is exactly what's happening here in the end. And another interesting thing about this chord progression, if we have a closer look at, and that's where we came from actually, was if we were having a look at this relationship here between our D major chord and our G major chord. Well, what is that? That's actually also a 5-1 relationship there. So we're having our 5 here, our D major chord, major third, and now we're going down a 5th or up a 4th, doesn't matter, to our G, and this leading tone here, which is, you know, the 3rd of the D major, it's leading us into our 1 of our G major chord. So there's not only in the end an extra dominant implemented into the chord progression, but also inside the diatonic scale there is this 5-1 constellation that's going on. So that's pretty interesting, and I think that's a pretty smart move to pull at that moment. Let's wrap this up real quick. With our 1 chord, which is our basic B minor chord, and we're moving up a minor third with our you could do this with this principle of consonant and dissonant intervals. Then there is this 5-1 progression, which is this D major or dominant chord, we could call it as well, which is moving up to our G major chord. And now there's a pretty drastic change actually. So now he's moving up a whole step to the A major chord. And this is changing every note completely. So I think it makes sense because it starts off pretty smoothly, you know, B minor, D major, G major, all pretty like standard progressions actually, all working out very well, nothing too unexpected here, you know. And I think it makes sense to go to this A major chord at that moment. B, D, G, A, B minor, D major, G major, bigger change to A major, no common notes there, and then he's going to this F sharp dominant chord at the very end. And I wanna like go a little bit deeper here because I think not only the last chord makes a lot of sense here, which is the F sharp dominant leading back into our B minor chord, but also the chord before that F sharp dominant, which is our A major chord. Okay, and why is that? So if you have a listen here. It's just going up there very, very smoothly. Okay, so we have our A major chord, and it's like this last transition is so smooth. That's what makes it really, really nice, you know? A major, F dominant. So we have this. You know? Very smooth voice leading here. And then it's just starting all over again. Okay, so that was the theoretical part here. So we'll just go and have a look into our instrumental. So let's solo this here. So we just have basic drums here. You can learn that in the groove part as well. All from PML. And then we have our melodics part. In our melodics part, we have our bass line. There's like kind of a high note that is going on, which is just, you know, like accompanying the chords. Then we have our actual chords. So B minor, moving to D major. Then here's like a small interplay there. moving to our G major. Actually, this needs to continue here. And I mean, this part here is just creating tension, you know. You should see like those variations as like small fill-ins that create tension that resolve into the next chord actually. Then moving up to the A major a whole step. And now going to this F sharp major chord here. Actually, he's doing this, so this would be a much smoother voice leading. Sorry for that, didn't program it here well. Then we have this arp that is playing together with the chords. And if you want to check this arp out, I've made this arp tutorial as well in this whole course, and you can have a really close look at how to create this kind of arps on a composition level and on a patch level as well. Moving with the chords in the tonality. Very interesting here is this last note. Listen how it's changing also to the root of our dominant chord that was implemented there. Right? Everything is normal, he's just changing the root notes of his arp to the chord notes. And that's pretty nice because the harmony and the arp melody, they complement each other and they give really a good feel there and a coherent feel there, and they're telling the same story at that moment. So if you're implementing dominant chords into your compositions, it makes sense that you adjust all of your melodic and harmonic layers accordingly. Alright, so that's basically it. We have our bass note here. This is just a diva patch. Let's just enable scale here for a moment. F sharp. Nope, sorry, B minor. Moving up a third. Dominant. Root. Moving up a whole step. Going down to this F sharp dominant. Okay, I would like to take this knowledge that we've gathered and put it into context and get in our practical sessions. And we will do this with this example first. Alright, so if you have a look at this chord progression, maybe we can put another dominant in there. So we could have just use this extra dominant method one more time in this chord progression. And so when we have a look at our chord progression with our B minor, then we have our D major chord, then we have our G major chord, and then we have our A major chord. And we can build extra dominants in there wherever we want. So I would say we'll just build one between the G major chord and the A major chord. Why? Because, you know, all the other chords, they're progressing pretty smoothly. Smooth, smooth, G major, smooth, because we have common notes there. And now I just want to make this change in the end a little bit, like pop out a little bit more. So we want to land on our A major chord, right? So what would be the dominant of our A major chord? That's pretty easy for us to find out because we just count up a perfect fifth from our A, which is our E, and then we build a major or a dominant chord on that note. Okay, so, and then we put it between the G major and our A major chord. Okay, so we have our G major we're coming from. Then we will progress to our E major dominant chord. Then we're progressing to our A major. Okay, and we can do this even a little bit, we could do this a little bit more extreme. We'll take this G here. So let me play this with a bass note. Then we're moving up to our E major, then to our A. Okay, but what we can do is, if you have a closer look here, we can only transpose this one note up here if we're moving to our E dominant chord, then going to our E dominant. What's happening here? So we only transposed one note up here, and this created the second part of our dominant, E dominant chord, right? Because this is our major third of our E, our fifth of our E, and our minor seventh, which is creating a lot of tension because we have this tritone interval here. And this, if you're not like transposing, if you're not transposing like the whole chord, so what we had was G major, E major. We've also transposed this note up here from here. But if we leave this note here, we have our minor seventh of our E chord, which will create tension and which will lead a lot smoother actually into our destination chord, our A major chord.